Really nice looking fish.
Wow, that's a trophy.
That's a hog.
Woo! Nice job, you two. There we go.
Lund Boats proudly presents the ultimate fishing experience. This week on Lund's The Ultimate Fishing Experience. The greater metropolitan area of Minneapolis and St. Paul is dotted with numerous lakes of all sizes. And the crown jewel of these urban lakes is Lake Minnetonka. At a little over 14,000 acres, this bustling lake is ringed with multi-million-dollar homes and is popular with boaters of all sizes. Despite the hectic activity, Minnetonka is also one of Minnesota's best largemouth bass and muskie lake the state has to offer.
Oh, big muskie, big muskie, big muskie, big muskie, big muskie.
Get him. Yeah, he's behind him. He's behind him.
Oh, yeah.
See him?
Making it a great place to hone one's fishing skills for anglers of all ages, and the center point for the area's newly established youth and high school fishing leagues.
Yeah, so that's a good Lake Minnetonka fish. 1-0. I'm not even in the water yet. That's not fair. There you go. Good morning. My name is Kolt Ringer, and I'm with my daughter Ella Ringer, and we're gonna go out on Lake Minnetonka here this morning and try to catch some bass. I'm a coach of the high school bass team for Minnetonka and also run a youth fishing league on the lake, and I've grown up in the area. I've fished Lake Minnetonka since I was Ella's age, and we should have a great morning. We've got some clouds that have rolled in, and we'll go out and try to catch some bass this morning. All right, well, we've got a pretty neat thing here going in the Minnetonka area, and I think across the country, especially in Minnesota. This high school fishing and youth angling, student angling seems to be kind of blowing up. We've got 3 kids, a 14, 12, and 10-year-old, and I used to be an elementary school teacher, so I have a huge passion for teaching and teaching kids how to fish. A lot of families, a lot of my kids' friends that don't have parents that know how to fish. And I think sometimes when they watch the TV shows or go into an outdoor sporting goods stores, they kind of get overwhelmed with all the lures and the equipment. And you know, what I like to tell them is just to keep it simple. We do a lot of wacky worm fishing, a lot of drop shot fishing, and that's basically just a hook and line. And we do just great, and that's what we're going to focus on out here today on Lake Minnetonka. Right now it's late June, late to mid-June, and now we're starting to see you know, some of the summer patterns starting to kick in a little bit, where we've got fish scattered. We've got a few fish shallow. We've got some showing up on their summer haunts out on the deeper rock piles and deeper weed lines. So that's what we're going to try to focus on today, is see if we can't get some of those bigger fish to go that have moved out onto the rock piles or hard bottom areas out by, you know, the deeper weed line. We'll give it a shot. Yeah, so out here we've got, especially new people coming to Lake Minnetonka, we've got a whole buoy system that if a guy never wanted or gal never wanted to look at a lake map and come fishing, I recommend you come find a buoy. It's usually marking some kind of rocky structure in between there and shore, and then usually there's points and structure that stick out. So we've got our weeds here on Lake Minnetonka. What we're doing is we're trying to find this hard bottom, and we're going to come up to it. We should see it here pretty soon as we go through. I've got my side imaging is shooting out there. See right there? That's where the weeds stop. Now these shadows over here are rocks, and that's what we're trying to transition and fish on. And see, that's a bigger rock that we're going to go. I'm going to go put a waypoint. I'm going to use my cursor. I can mark that specific rock right there. Now we can swing the boat back and go back and fish it. Now you look, you see my different view here. We've got weeds, we've got a few fish sitting in the weeds. That was our rock right there that we marked in between those weeds. So now we can go back, I can go to my map, and my waypoint is going to be right back there that we can turn around and go fish. So let's give it a shot, Ella. Let's start with the jig worm. All right, one of the greatest features I think I found about this Lund boat here that we're fishing with is their railing system, and accessory sport pack. And these little bags, they may look simple, but it's great because I've got so much tackle in here. When we're coming out for the day, I kind of focus and put a few, the plastics we're going to use and all the little maybe sinkers and hooks, and I've got them right here in a bag. I don't have to go digging through my storage every day, so it's been a really nice surprise here. Fish on? All right. Is it a rock bass or a big one? Looks like the right species. Oh, you got, decided to wake up. You got a bite? Or did you hook into the musket? Nope, looks like a nice bass. Keep him out up here and I'll grab him for you. Yep, nice bass. Oh, good one. He's gonna jump for you. That's a good start. Good job. You want to hold him up? Yeah, that's a really nice fish, Ella. We're seeing a lot of nice fish like that on Minnetonka. They're really healthy. Ella threw a nice little Slurpee through them and couldn't resist. So 1-0. I'm not even in the water yet. That's not fair.
The post-spawn period is prime time to target walleyes. The shallows are loaded with hungry fish recuperating from the spawn. Shallow water can mean spookiness. This is compounded by high skies and calm conditions, so being quiet is important. Once you locate fish in an area, consider staying off the trolling motor and use shallow water anchors instead. The Minn Kota Talon has up to 15 feet of anchoring and pins the boat in place under a variety of situations from rough water to soft bottoms. I'll often talon down near the top of a structure and fan cast 360 degrees around the boat. I can cover a sizable diameter while making little to no noise. If the fish move or I stop catching, simply talon up and head to the next spot.
Pinning down with your shallow water anchor, calm days, being as stealthy as you can, work around the boat, adds up to catching walleyes.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Mercury Marine. Go boldly.
What's great about out here too is we can be the busiest lake in the state, and you get out here on these weekday mornings. We're out here on a Wednesday morning, and as you can see, we've got not a lot of boat traffic. We've got a few other fishermen. That's about all we'll see this morning. It's an early morning lake, and you can see Ella with this. It's basically a jig worm setup with it's a little creature bait, but she's throwing it out there, letting it hit the bottom, and then kind of hopping it back with little rod hops, and then reeling it up and casting it again. But I think another majority of the time these bass, they want that, they're either going to hit it on the fall or they're going to hit it when that lure hits the bottom, if they find a bare spot in the sand or the weeds when that creature stands up. But she's just kind of free spooling it out there, make sure it falls down to the bottom. And another thing I like is this yellow line. I mean, there's all sorts of different brands, but because we can see this line all the way across the water, and if that line starts to go to the side, we know that we've got to reel up, tighten it down, and we've either got a fish or we've made bottom contact already. But I really like having that bright line for the visibility too, especially fishing with kids. It's real easy to see. It makes it for more hookups. Got him?
Yep.
Good. Make sure you keep them buttoned. Get them out of the weeds if you can. There you go. Good job. Bring your rod tip down. Is he there? What do you got? Oh, you got a snorting. It's all right. It's a good one. That's a good one. We'll get him before you get back. There you go. Good deal. All right. We'll get him back to grow up big. Your line is clean. Good deal. Yeah, and one thing I'll point out here too with Elle, if you see that rod, I think what a lot of people do when you go in and get rods for kids, they're either really kind of junky rods that they make for kids, unfortunately. You know, those first rods. This is a rod that's specifically built for juniors, and as you can see, it's I think a 5-foot rod. It's pretty stiff. So when she gets into a northern pike or a big fish like that, it handles it. And it's not, you know, it's got enough backbone where she can get a hook set, but it's also not so big that it's uncomfortable for her to use. And also, when you're teaching kids how to use these rods, what I tend to have them do, a lot of kids like to hold the rod down here and they're not really in control, is kind of hold the rod right there. And I think Ella, I don't know if you've been watching, but she's probably been doing that. But it's just important to have the right setup. It's like a tennis racket or golf club or anything. If you've got the wrong piece of equipment for a kid, it's going to make it harder for them to do what they need to do when they're out.
Yeah, I like it. It's the perfect size for me.
Yep, and the reel's nice and small, so. And we load it up with braided line and go to the fluorocarbon leader so that we've caught, how many muskies on this rod? One or two?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's big enough to handle that, and we'll go out and catch sunfish on the same rod. It's more fun with an ultralight, but it's an important tool that, like I said, unfortunately a lot of the rods out there that are built for kids, that, you know, they're fun with the toys and all the cartoons on them, but they're really not that great for fishing, especially when they get to an intermediate level like where Ella is. So you need to have action when you're fishing with kids, especially when they're just starting out, because there's so many other distractions. If you bring a kid out fishing and they don't have the rod bending or some kind of action, you're competing with a lot of other activities these days. So there's nothing wrong with tying up a bluegill rod or crappie rod or even going out and catching 50 rock bass either. The kids love it. So
I like it a lot. It's relaxing, but it's also fun.
When's your favorite time to go?
Probably in the morning. It's the best bite.
Yeah, we've had some really great mornings. I'm lucky my kids like to get up we'll go up at sunrise, and in the summer that might mean getting up at 4:30, and we've had some pretty good topwater bites in the morning. That's a good one. Get him in the mouth. There you go. Nice job. Thank you. My own net person. Ooh, look at him. He's been caught before, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, look at that. I had him hooked up here, and that's the other thing about this lake. It's a pressured lake, so this isn't the first time this guy's been caught. He's got a hole here, but that also shows you the benefit of catch and release too. We just had a 300 angler high school fishing tournament that was all catch and release. We had a mobile app that weighed the fish, and I think that's kind of the wave of the future, and it helps save nice bass like this, because if this guy goes in the live well and gets beat up over and over the summer, better chance of surviving if we can just hook him and let him go. So let him get somebody else, have fun with him. Those big bass will stay down. Oh, big muskie, big muskie, big muskie, big muskie, big muskie. He's got it. He's gonna get it. He's gonna get it.
Oh my gosh, that's cool. Ooh.
I'm afraid to put my hands down there. You put your hands down there. You get that pike for me. Like I said, Ella's 12 years old, and she does a youth fishing league that I started out here for 5 to 12-year-olds. And that we meet, fish on Tuesday nights for 3 hours, and she has some of her friends they form a team. They're called the Funny Sunnies. They get to make up their own team names. And we've got about, let's say, 10 or 15 other teams that fish with us on Minnetonka. We have a traveling trophy that we've passed along to the team with the most points. We keep track of a sunfish is worth 1 point, a crappie is worth 1 point, a bass is 3, and northern's 5. What's a muskie?
20.
20. And we just score it. We don't ask for any pictures or anything. The dads are usually the boat captains or the coaches. Here in Minnetonka, I think we have over 140 kids signed up. Now we're letting kids sign up that are, as young as 5 years old. And now this is her last year. It's kind of like the Little League of fishing that we've kind of done here locally. And now, across the country, high school fishing is just blowing up. I know there's a big tournament with 400 boats going on. It's called the World Finals. And I think we have 19 teams from Minnesota down there fishing. We've got a couple Minnetonka teams. I think there's 4 or 5 Brainerd teams and teams from across the state fishing down there. And I think the growth is you're just going to continue to see it grow because it's a sport. You know, Minnetonka is a huge high school and there's tons of opportunities for other sports, but not every kid, you know, can go out and make the varsity hockey team or baseball team. Fishing is something that, you know, is open to everybody, and what's really neat is the girls and the boys can compete together on the same level. The fish don't care who's at the end of the line. You know, we're starting to see more girls join the sport, which is great, and it's growing, it's big. Our biggest need right now is more adult volunteers to drive the boats, because I can tell you there's more kids that want to be involved in it. Really neat with the high school tournaments, there's 3 or 4 organizations that are out there hosting tournaments, and they're popping up more because there's so many kids that want to fish. And each organization has its own rules, and I think what's really neat about that is some of the organizations, it's totally up to the kids, and it's more for the older kids that are 9th through 12th grade, where they have to run everything but the big motor. They have to run the trolling motor, they have to pick the spots, they have to tie their lures, they have to net their own fish, and the boat captain's really there for safety. And it's also nice because some of the other tournament circuits allow the boat captains to run the trolling motor, to help pick the spots, because ultimately, I mean, the goal is we want to take them to a different level, the kids to a different level. And, you know, you've got kids as young as 8th grade. It's hard to run the trolling motor and fish at the same time. So in those tournaments, it's nice for the boat captains to be up there running the boat, picking the spots, so the kids can focus on fishing and hopefully catching. Nice little guy. Good job. You know, when you're taking somebody new out, don't forget about the most important thing to do is have a good knot. And that's usually one of the biggest challenges with kids too, is learning how to tie knots. So what we do, and what I've done with my kids, is I take a piece of rope and we have them practice, just like they do for baseball or hockey or soccer or anything. We practice tying knots, and that when they get into those tournaments, then hopefully they're not trying to learn or have to pull out their phone and watch a YouTube video, which is a great tool for these kids to teach them how, because there's a ton of resources out there on how to tie knots on YouTube. But that's one of those things that gets overlooked often when you're introducing somebody new to the sport, is find a simple knot, the Palmer or the Trilene or something that's, and you know, have them practice tying that knot. There you go.
Keeping it.
Ooh, I don't know if you want your picture taken with that one.
To know.
Today we're fishing out of my 2075 Pro V bass, and the layout is the extra pedestal seating model, so it's not like a traditional bass boat where you've got the bench seat, but we've got the extra seating in the back. It's got a huge casting deck. I fish with kids all the time. I've got my family out here. It looks like Ella's got a nice little bass on right now, but you know, we've got so much space up here to fish. Storage on this boat is unbelievable. We've got storage up front, we've got a cooler, we've got a double tank deep live well so we can divide fish. My kids like to compete a little bit, so we can put brothers fish in one side, sisters fish in the other, and have a nice little weigh-in at the end. The rod storage is unbelievable. I can fit 15 rods in this compartment, and the way it's laid out, I can have all those rods in there and not have a big tangled mess. The ride and the hull out here on Lake Minnetonka, we take on some pretty big waves, and the way this hull is designed, we're cutting right through those waves. So it's been a great boat and a great ride. Get him. Yeah, he's behind him. He's behind him.
Oh,
See him?
yeah.
See him? Here he is. He's down
here
there.
It is.
Here he is.
Here he is.
He's gonna eat him. He's gonna T-bone him. He's gonna crush him. Come on.
Come on.
He's gonna see him. He's gonna get him. Get him. Hey, I think we should move.
Yeah.
I think that muskie's wreaking havoc with our bass here. Should we move?
Yeah.
All right, let's button up. You know, Mercury has been building engines for over 75 years, and recently at Lund's annual photo shoot, we caught up with product application engineer John Newberg, introducing a whole new line of motors that just came off the production line.
This is the new Mercury 4-stroke we just released this year. We released a V6 in a 3.4 liter and a V8 in a 4.6 liter. They are large displacement four-strokes, get a lot of torque out of them. They are the lightest four-strokes in their class. We have great charging output, which is great for all of the new electronics in boats. They will give you better hole shot, better top end speed, better fuel economy than all of the engines they are replacing, especially at cruise speed. See a large improvement there. We also released the Pro XS in both a 175 V6 and then a 200, 225, 250, and 300 V8. They have, on a 20-inch model, they come with a TorqueMaster gear case and then a 5.4 gear case on the 25. And then on top of that, we released a 250 and 300 Verado. They will be replacing the old supercharged Verados, the previous engine. Overall, Mercury customers have been thrilled with the performance of this new engine.
Let's see if we can get a few more out of here. Fish. It's bouncing. It's a big bass,
Oh,
Ella.
yeah,
It's a good bass. Come on, baby. Why don't you move your rod? Yeah, this is a thumper.
that's big.
Oops. Yeah, look at this guy. See how clear that water is? That big old muskie better not come up and grab him. Are you gonna get him, Ella?
Try.
Okay, he's gonna come up. Should have a big old mouth to get your hand in there. Pinch him hard. Get him. Hold on, there you go. Nice fish. Yeah, so that's a good Lake Minnetonka fish. Do you think it's time to let the big boaters come out? Us go home? Might be. It's getting nice out. The afternoons, boaters are coming, and you know, we've had a great morning of fishing so far. We caught some nice fish early. It's time to put the rods away sometimes, and maybe we'll go take a dip.
Give fishing a try and don't be afraid to touch a fish. It's a living creature too.
Have you ever kissed a fish?
Yeah.
Yep.
Many
We
times.
forgot to kiss that one. Maybe that's why we need good luck.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. If you'd like more information, check out lundboats.com or these other online outlets.